Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of our photography review show. If you've never been here before, my name is Jakub and I'm a professional photographer based in West Sussex, England. I'm also founder of Clever Photographer, where we create digital tools for photographers and help photographers to moving forward on their photography journey. Anyway, this show is something that I've been doing for several years now, and basically it's my way of reviewing your photos and helping you to keep moving forward. Now, what I usually do, I look at the three parts of your photos. I look at the technical part. This is where we look at things like exposure, noise, sharpness, camera settings, and all that fun part. Then I look at the artistic part. This is where I look at things like composition, storytelling, framing, main subject, and everything that has that visual impact on your photo. And finally, if I think that it's beneficial for you, I always like to give you little tips and tricks on how to edit your photos and maybe give you a hand when you want to improve something on the photo editing. Now, if you want to join us, there is nothing easier than jumping to our website, cleverphotographer.com/forward membership. And on that page, you can find out more about joining our Clever Photographer Plus membership, which will give you three important things. Access to this photography review show, so you will be able to send your own images. On top of it, you will also get access to our Clever Photographer Academy Facebook page. And most importantly, you will get monthly bundle full of incredible photography tools. So for example, this month, the bundle is focusing on portrait photography and it includes Lightroom, Luminar Neo, and Photoshop presets, overlays, textures, backgrounds, custom brushes, Lightroom brushes, and so much more. On average, it has just somewhere around 300 different elements, and I think it's a great value. So definitely check it out one more time at cleverphotographer.com/forward membership. Now, this is all out of the way. We have three great photographers to look at, so let's start right now. Okay, so as you can see, I'm already in Luminar Neo. I have the three photographers here, and today we're going to be looking at the landscape photography, mixed photography, and also nature photography. So starting with the landscape photography and images from Ivana. So we have two photos right here, so let's start with the first one. So Ivana, looking at the camera and camera settings. Sony 6000 with the 16 to 50 millimeters lens, and then from the camera settings, ISO 1000, 50 millimeters, f5.6 and 1/80th of a second. Now, looking at the camera settings, higher ISO, I think especially for this time of the day, I would personally try to go a little bit lower. Now, I'm not sure about the light condition. It looks quite bright, but it maybe isn't. However, ultimately, for this type of photography where there is no movement or you're not creating any special effects, the goal is always as low as possible. And in general, most of the cameras do really well when you're around ISO 100. So 1000 is quite a lot. So let's say if we zoom in a little bit, you will kind of see it in different parts of the image. It's actually not that bad, but it's still a little bit visible. So that's one thing. f5.6, nothing wrong with that. It's maybe more the shutter speed, 1/80th of a second. I wonder if, that's about as much as you could do without a tripod. Maybe that's the case. Either way, it always works like a triangle, obviously, your shutter speed, f-stop, the aperture, and the ISO, and you kind of want to balance them in between. So yeah, it's just ultimate the goal to bring it down. Anyway, in other sense, when we kind of zoom in, I'm trying to find the sharpness or the focus where it actually went. This part looks okay, this part as well. There is a slight movement visible, especially when you kind of go higher. You can see that it's not crisp sharp. The sharpness is probably somewhere around the plants here. So that's a little bit of a shame. I think maybe higher f-stop would help in this case. It's kind of interesting with 50 millimeters. I would have assumed that that shouldn't really be the case. Again, it could be a combination with the ISO maybe. I'm not sure, but the sharpness isn't bad, but it isn't super sharp. As it comes to exposure, the I think it's all good. The light is quite even. There is no harsh light or harsh shadow. So this all looks good. But I think the biggest one to focus on is the higher ISO. So to keep an eye on that and see how to avoid it. If the light is really low, maybe a little tripod would always be helpful, or see how you can do with that. And on the top of it, the sharpness, yeah, just always keep an eye. Where is the camera focusing and what result you getting? Moving to the artistic part, so talking about the composition. Well, it's interesting capture. However, I have to say it's kind of difficult to see what exactly you're trying to show us and what is the kind of main subject, the main play. In overall, when I look at it, the first thing that comes to my mind is the texture. Obviously, there are different colors, different textures, different sort of details and clarity and different kind of color and texture around the image. However, when I look at it, my eyes just go all over the place. They're looking at different things, trying to see what you're trying to show. I do get attracted by these green plants. First, because they are quite contrasted to the rest of the color. Also, they are quite bright, so they stand out a lot. So these kind of get my attention, but I don't necessarily think that's what you're trying to show. So it's just a little bit overwhelming. There is lots happening in the image, and it's a bit difficult to say what you're trying to show. Again, also because the light is even, which in general is quite a good thing. Looking at it, again, it's difficult to figure out what is it that the eyes should be focusing on. So there's just a few things that you could maybe adjust and see for thinking about the composition and the storytelling part. It's just sometimes when you work with the scene where there is lots of things happening, you then have to, in post-processing, kind of try to work around, maybe turn it into black and white, or work around with like a local adjustments, make some parts sharper, some parts brighter, and just really help to navigate the eyes of the potential viewer of the image. So that's that for this photo. Now, moving on the second image, which definitely has a little bit of more storytelling. It's more complex, and it kind of gives you a clear idea on what we're looking at and what the story is here. But I'm jumping forward. Let's actually start first by looking at the camera details again. Again, the Sony 6000, then the 16 to 50mm lens, and from the camera settings, lower ISO this time on 125, 16mm, so really nice wide view, in combination with f8 and 1/60th of a second. So the f8, I assume with the combination with the 16mm should really give you sharpness all the way through, which again isn't 100% right. I mean, when you look at the foreground, you can see that it's sharp. I mean, you can see the details, but there is just tiny bit of movement there. You can see how it's not really crisp. And that pretty much goes all the way through. So different ways to do this. Really just keep checking at the back of your camera after you take a picture to look for the sharpness, which can be a little bit tricky on the back of the camera, and especially for wide captures, but that's the first thing to look at. Then if you think that you're getting still a little bit softer images, then you need to increase the shutter speed. Maybe 1/60th of a second is just too slow, and the camera just moves a little bit. Then obviously there is a whole question of holding camera, how you hold it. Try not to breathe in when you take in the camera. Use both hands, kind of hold it. So basically I use both hands, one holding the lens, one holding the camera. Then I take a breath, and as I take a deep breath, then I take the picture before I breathe out. That can help. If it's still not helping, then tripod would be a next thing, and so on. So there is a kind of whole number of things that you could try to make sure that you're getting crisp, sharp photos, but it's just you need to try and see which one will work the best for you. Now, the lighting overall, the highlights are a little bit stronger on this one, and they taking lots of attention away from the rest of the photo. That's just how it is, and that's what happened at this time of the day. And I think in forest, quite often that is a little bit even a little bit more visible than in normal cases. You can kind of see where, for me personally, I really like the opening. I like the little river or creek, and I like this valley and everything. And actually, because it's kind of dark, most of my attention, as soon as I look at the image, was more towards this opening and towards the brighter areas. And they are not as interesting as this part, I think, for me. So yeah, that's just how it is. Sometimes the time of the day doesn't allow us to basically get the most out of the scene, and that's how it is. So no, this is just for future. try to maybe get a moment when maybe there is a cloud over the sun to get more diffusion or something like that. Anyway, so sharpness, just need a little bit more. Noise is fine. There isn't much at all. Exposure, as I mentioned, it's more the question of the time of the day, because when I look at it, it looks like you have details everywhere anyway. So all of that is good. Just something to think of in the future for the time of the day and for the sharpness. Moving to the artistic part, as I said, I really enjoyed the scene, kind of looking at it. The flow works really nicely with the creek. The contrast of the different colors works really well as well. The different areas really get you into the image and let you explore it. So I think all of that works nicely. I like this kind of wide shot. I think it works very well. A little bit of foreground here, a little bit of reflection. All of that creates quite nice capture. So probably the biggest thing is the contrast between the luminance or the brightness, where I think, again, lots of attention goes towards that area. Now we can quickly move into the post-processing and see if we could just open a little bit the foreground. Now here in Luminar Neo, there is something that is called Enhance AI. And that is a tool that maybe will help us a little bit to open the foreground. So that way we basically just open this up and we will see it a little bit better. Once we do that, you can see that there is a little bit of a, not a mistake or problem. There is a, we're getting lots of green in even areas where there shouldn't be green. There's that kind of green tint. And this often happens when there is a dominance of certain color in the image. I most of the time see it with green and blue. When there is a lot of green in the image, the camera starts to add green into other parts of the photo. I think there must be something about the camera being overwhelmed, or I don't know, but it happens. And I see the same with blue. When there is lots of blue sky, then the blue start to appear even in the shadows and areas where there shouldn't be blue. In general, if everything works well, it should be really easy just to go into the develop tool, color, and adjust the white balance. So looking at the tint slider, which by the way would be available in any photo editing application, we know that we have too much green. So we're not gonna go and add even more. We're gonna do the opposite. We're gonna take it and actually bring it the other way around. Now, you need to keep an eye on the image because you don't want to make it purple. But there is so much green actually that even when I go 100%, instead of adding the purple, it will actually balance it out. But we don't want that much. I think for me, that somewhere around, maybe 80 will work really well. Let's have a look at it. Before and after. Now, when I adjust it, it almost looks like that's how it looked before, right? I didn't make any adjustments. But actually, when you look at the before and after, you really see the difference. So I think that helped a little bit. Let's have a look at the before and after here. So we get more details and we enjoy a little bit more of the flow. Another good thing would be maybe to add a little bit of a glow, just to make it more natural and soft. And additional vignette. So let's close it and actually add the vignette into the center of the vignette into the foreground here. So let's say that this is our opening. And once we do that, here in Luminar Neo, we can also add a little bit of inner light. So even more attention towards this part. So I think somewhere around here, maybe that's a little bit too much. And that's about it. Let's have a look. Before and after. So by adding the vignette, making sure, so basically darkening this area, adding brightness into this area, you get more attention towards that part, which I quite enjoy. So again, Ivana, one more time, before and after. And now I think it can work quite well. Yeah, really well. So really, really nice. Anyway, thank you very much for sending both of the photos over. I really love them. Thank you for trying different things and sharing them with us. And I hope that maybe we will see more of your photos in the future. So that's it. And now we will move to Zdeněk. So Zdeněk, 2 pictures to look at. So let's start with the flower. Okay, Zdeněk, so let's make it nice and big and let's have a look at the camera details. So on this flower here, yellow rose, apparently, you capture it with Canon 77D and with the 50mm lens. From the camera settings, ISO 100, 50mm, f10, 1/320th of a second. So, Zdeněk, nice and low ISO, good on there. f10, giving you some sort of depth. Now, kind of goes back and forward. I quite like the fact that your subject is in focus. Also, that ant look really cool there. And then there is that softness, which is a little bit unbalanced. You get some parts a little bit more in focus, some not, but I think it's quite cool. I think it can work quite well. 1/320th of a second gives you really nice details and sharpness and lovely details in the water. So again, that works really well too. So in overall, when it comes to the camera settings, I think you all good there. Obviously, 50mm lens isn't your most traditional macro or nature lens for this type of photography, but considering the kit you had, I think actually the result looks very good. Now the light itself is a little bit stronger for myself. It just gives you some really dark, contrasty area, but in overall, I think it works really well. There is lots of really good things on that image and things that maybe could be a little bit improved, but in overall, I really like it. So, talking about the composition, the storytelling, there is a lot happening here. So, obviously, the flower itself is very pretty. The contrast of the colors of the flower and the background works really well. The lovely detail with the ant, great capture as well. The water drops, also great level of details there. So, all of that create really, really nice scene. I quite like the square crop. However, I would probably crop it even a little bit tighter. So let's see if we can actually do that. Here and square and probably somewhere around here. Just to really focus on the main subject rather than everything else. And another thing I would do, I would probably make the background just a little bit darker. Just to get even more contrast and more attention on the flower. So in this case, we're just going to do it easily with something like vignette tool with a little bit of inner light in the center. And in overall, what I would do, I would actually darken the yellow a little bit. Now we can do that using simple HSL panel. So let's do that. Let's go into HSL. Instead of hue, we're going to go into the luminance and we're just going to bring the yellow and orange down. Nothing crazy, just a touch. But yeah, just to darken it and make it the color just a little bit less powerful, I think. So something like that, and before and after. That's about it. Wouldn't do much more than that. Yes, a little bit of dodge and burn. We could add a little bit more contrast between the different parts. For example, we could just bring down the exposure a little bit somewhere around here. Then go into masking, use a brush. Strength maybe around 70. Make the brush a little bit bigger and just darken some areas. Yeah. Something like this and this to basically just create even more contrast. So that looks all good. Perfect. Well done on that capture and all the level of the details. And with the second, we're gonna look at the warhog here. Wow. What a capture. What a subjects you have, Zdeněk. Well done there. So Canon 77D with the Canon 100 to 400 millimeters. From the camera settings, ISO 2000, 235 millimeters on your lens, f6.3 and 1/1000th of a second. So camera settings, higher ISO, wildlife photography, you want a fast shutter speed, especially if the animal is moving. So spot on there. F6.3 with 235 millimeters actually give you a really nice depth of field, which works really well. I really enjoy that. I think the level of details on the hair, the lovely background, the separation, even though in overall the animal actually has a kind of similar color scheme as the background, but because of the depth, you actually create great separation, and I think it works really, really well. So technically, I think it's good. No noise, good sharpness, good light, nice diffuse light. All works really, really well. Zdeněk, when it comes to composition, this is a great example of the kind of closer shot of the animal. I really like that. Obviously, creating a storytelling, you would have one full image of the animal, and then this one kind of closer look, and maybe one even closer, and that would create a lovely, lovely story and something to be printed on the wall. I think this works for many different reasons. The space around is all good. The animal facing, having a little bit of active space in front of it. Yeah, the position of the eye, everything just works really well. And I think it's really nicely done. Clear subject, clearly visible what you're trying to show. So well done on that, and well done on creating this beautiful image. When it comes to post-processing, I will not show you anything you don't know already. You could make the little bit more dodge and burn on the animal itself, maybe liven up a little bit the image with simple enhanced AI and maybe a little bit of extra saturation just to help with maybe extra vibrance. You could darken the background, or as I say, a little bit of dodge and burn. This time maybe let's do a little bit of extra brightness. Make the brush a little bit bigger, strength around 50, and just highlight some of the brighter areas that are already on the image. So I think just something like this, and that could work. Yeah, something like this, and see, we could then close it and open it again, bring the exposure down, masking brush, and this time just bright or darken the areas which are already naturally dark, just creating more contrast to create something like this. Now, quick look before and after. And again, the change is quite subtle, but I think it just helps in overall to add a little bit more power to the animal. Yeah, you could add obviously a vignette, or what you could do for a change, we could kind of create linear gradient from here, bring down the exposure, make it darker, and do something like this. So, well done, Zdeněk. Thank you very much for sending both of the images over. Love to look at them. I'm really happy to see the nature photo, that you try something a little bit different. And of course, the wild light always works really well. Now, finally, we're going to move to the third photographer of today, and that's Tony. Tony, beautiful captures again. And if I would have to pick one of my favorites, it's definitely this one. I love this capture of the butterfly. Definitely one of my favorite pictures of this week. Beautifully, beautifully done and beautifully captured. So, looking at it, Canon 50D, no lens here, but okay, looking at the camera details, ISO 200, 135 millimeters, f5.7 and 1/512th of a second. The camera details are all good. There is a little bit of noise visible, but I think that just adds to the overall feel of the image. And this photo, forget about the camera settings. This photo is all about the visual impact of the photo, isn't it? It was a visual impact of the scene. You have that butterfly, which is sitting there with a great level of details. Very contrasting color to the rest of the scene. The rest of the scene with that beautiful combination of purple and green create beautiful background, and it really makes it stand out. And I just think it's great, Tony. I love this photo. There's nothing I can add to it. I think it's a great example of beautiful nature photography and definitely something what people should try. As always, great work with the depth here, great work with the details, great work with the light. So all in all, this is superb photo. Let's have a look at the other ones. Also great example of a contrast on this one and details. Also great example of a stronger light, which can work really well if you get an even cover for the whole subject. So you can see how the background, obviously more on a brown side, darker side, creating a really nice backdrop to this beautiful flower, which is definitely the center of the attention. Then this beautiful flower as well, lots of lovely details, a little bit stronger light, but actually in this case, it helps to create a little bit of contrast in it. So beautiful. And this one also beautiful, beautiful capture with great texture, great details, lovely light, lovely contrast of the color, great framing. Just lots of really good things and well put together. So, Tony, this one is definitely my favorite. I think it's beautiful, beautifully captured. And definitely, this could be totally on a cover of a book, or it should be definitely printed and put on the wall because I think it works really well. This one also really beautiful. Definitely gets lots of attention, and yeah, you should be really happy with it. So, Tony, thank you very much again, as always, for sending your images over. Zdeněk, Ivana, thank you as well for joining us for this week's episode of our photography review show. For the rest of you, if you want to join us, nothing easier than just jumping to our website, cleverphotographer.com/forward membership. Join us today, get your 300 elements for portrait photography, join our Clever Photographer Academy, and join us here at the photography review show. Folks, have a great rest of the week. Enjoy your weekend, enjoy the summer if you're in this part of the world, and I will see you again next Tuesday here on our YouTube channel at Clever Photographer or at our Facebook page at Clever Photographer. Take care and